All children, except one, grow up. Even within the fantastical world J.M. Barrie has created, this isn't quite true. Sure, Peter Pan will never mature, but there is another, more unfortunate path the other children may follow. Although it likely isn't a great way to start a whimsical children's story, it might be more accurate to say, all children except one grow up or die. In this way, Peter Pan is the ultimate nonconformist. When faced with the one thing every person has in common, he refuses, not only for himself, but he attempts to do the same for others as well. Peter collects unclaimed children who fall out of their prams, who are surely on their way down path number 2 without his intervention, and enlists them in his Lost Boys. This isn't to say that death isn't preferable to the alternative. As Peter says,
"To die will be an awfully big adventure."
No, the cardinal sin any Lost Boy can commit is growing up. So any who show signs of maturing must be removed. He will throw away the children he saved, played with, and watched over as soon as he sees they can't keep themselves from growing and maturing just because he made a rule against it. It's in this act we see a childish, confusing, and ironic character trait emerge in Peter. The boy who wouldn't grow up, the anti-authority figure, is a bit of a control freak. While on the surface, the two appear to be very different people, maybe even opposites. This is something he and Geppetto share. It's quite fitting, maybe even a little on the nose, for the father of puppets to have control issues. Law Zero was likely part of the Grain Covenant before Carlo died, showing an unwillingness to cede his authority over puppets long before he needed it to put his plan into action. His son isn't even allowed to stay dead without his permission. We see in his interactions with his puppet, he wants P to obey, tell no lies, and be a good boy. To him. You may be tempted to think this is because he wants what's best for the puppet, but really, it's to keep him predictable and easier to control.
I can't predict how you'll change. How to proceed.
This could be the same reason, at least symbolically, he chooses not to build him with a left arm of his own. The left hand has often had connotations of being the evil or bad hand in many cultures throughout history. A Latin word for left is sinistra, or sinister, and following this, the left side of a shield is known as the sinister side. The left hand has also been called the devil's hand, and in the past, this superstition has been taken somewhat seriously. It is far less common today, but correcting children using their left hands for tasks was normal in a lot of places. Sometimes there was practical reasoning behind it, but often it was just because they were using the bad hand, and it was wrong. I've heard firsthand from a number of older folks who went to Catholic schools and would get their hands slapped by a nun with a ruler if they tried writing with their left. Unless you're a Boy Scout or an Ashanti warrior, offering up your left hand to shake is often seen as disrespectful. Or, if you're shaking to seal a deal, it's seen as a sign of insincerity. The left hand is often associated with hidden actions and deceit, but also creativity and free thinking. On the other hand, the right hand is thought to be the proper hand. Much to the chagrin of those giving impromptu directions out there, right is even synonymous with good and correct in English. In opposition to the left hand, it's been called God's hand, and often symbolizes straightforwardness, authority, and honesty. Your right-hand man is a person that you hold as your most trusted confidant. The right hand is also known as the giving hand, while the left hand is known as the receiving. In Western esotericism, which is almost too relevant to Lies of P, there are two paths of magic, the right-hand path and the left-hand path. In a nutshell, the right-hand path involves strictly following a specific moral code. Generally, the idea is to conform it to the group with the goal of becoming closer, or even one with, an existing divinity. The left-hand path can be considered the opposite, breaking taboos, rejecting societal norms, and questioning moral dogma, with the goal of elevating the self. If the description of the left-hand path rings any bells, it's because it's exactly what the alchemist and Simon Manus were trying to achieve in Lies of P. Human experimentation, bringing people back from the dead, attempting to make Simon Manus a god. They even used a literal left hand to do it. In the scene we see Simon awaken as a god, a giant left hand blooms from a bouquet of right hands, reach down to him and grant him more power. This could symbolize an individual, Simon, breaking free of the group, humanity, and an act of self-deification. The scene is very clearly meant to reference Michelangelo's creation of Adam, and maybe Jujutsu Kaisen, with quite a notable difference. In the painting, God is reaching down with his right hand to give Adam, who's receiving with his left hand, the spark of life. Simon's awakening is a left hand reaching down to touch his ethereal left hand. God's hand, aka the giving hand, aka the right hand, has no part in this granting of power. This could have symbolism in that there is no actual giving taking place. Simon is giving himself this power. But as the fight continues, the hand that descends from the sky to deliver those massive AoE strikes is now a right hand. Interestingly, this wouldn't be the only example of it we see, and it may have been a conscious choice made by the devs. He receives Sophia's ergo with his left hand if he chooses to give her peace, but returns it to her with his right in the Rise of P ending. Speaking of, our protagonist takes a journey up the left-hand path himself to get there, breaking taboos like lying, euthanasia, deicide. Maybe not to become a literal deity, but you can argue he finds his true self at the end of this path. If we extrapolate on the idea that the left hand can represent the individual in self-empowerment in Lies of P, we come to a bit of a disturbing realization about the Legion arm. Legion generally means many, but it can have a deeper connotation than that. In the Bible, the group of demons known by the name Legion were so many that they had given up any semblance of individuality, even being able to be exorcised by the name of the collective, when normally it must be done using a demon's true name. Therefore, removing someone's left arm and replacing it with a Legion arm can be seen as symbolically trying to keep them from having an individual identity and agency. This becomes a bit more apparent when we see Legion arms are actually called slave arms in the game files. This is how Geppetto really saw his puppet. It expands beyond just Geppetto's puppet and his Legion arm. Cecile, who is having a crisis of self-identity when we meet her, has a severely damaged left hand. Two bosses, the corrupted parade master and the green monster's second phase, feature puppet bodies being taken over and controlled. In both instances, the puppets' left arms have been replaced with those of their pilots. Simon saw his awakening as him ceasing to be himself, or at least his human self. When he used the arm of God, it cost him his own left arm that was eventually replaced by an ethereal one. In the original novel and plays, Peter Pan took the right hand of his nemesis and fed it to a crocodile. Whether he would care to think about such things or not, this was a symbolic strike against his mortal enemy. He established a sense of control by taking something representative of his authority. Geppetto is a self-described man of invention, who likely would have put little stock in the superstitious and emblematic meaning of hands. He likely had a practical reason for building puppets resembling his son without a left arm of their own. Whether he would care to think about such things or not, symbolically, he established a sense of control by removing something representative of his free will. He did so because he wanted him to be a good boy, tell the truth, and stay on his strings.